For more than 2 decades, Jason has helped organizations bring clarity to their communication, structuring brands, marketing, and digital ecosystems so messages actually land and drive results. He believes good branding isn't just about design, it's about building systems that make communication work. From simplifying complex ideas to creating strategies that connect with people, Jason's focus on structure and storytelling aligns perfectly with what we explore here. Here to talk about how clarity powers engagement, please welcome to the podcast, Jason Clark. Welcome, Jason. Welcome to the Engaging Personalities Podcast. I'm Anders Belanger, founder and CEO of Engagify, where we're on a mission to rehumanize business through engagement. We believe that we can all be more successful if we can command attention and deepen connection. So stick around to the end of the show and we'll reveal how you can be our next guest on a future episode. So let's get ready to engage.
Thanks you very much. Glad to be here. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. Well, we were just talking in the green room, if you will, or before we were recording, that we've attempted to connect a few times. So this is kind of like a celebration of like everything aligning finally. So let's start at the start, Jason. How did you get into the line of work you're at? How did you come to the place where you are here today? Yeah.
It started when I was a sophomore in high school. It was 1985 or no, 86, 87. I was the rock and roll kid, and I would go into my psychology class before class started and draw heavy metal logos on the chalkboard. Yeah. And my teacher told me that I should get into graphic arts. I had no idea what that was. There was a graphic arts vocational program at our high school. So my junior year, I took that class, got to the top of that class. My senior year, they actually, the best student got put into a co-op position at a university in town. So my senior year of high school, I actually went to Bellarmine University and worked in their print shop. And it has been a rocket ship ride ever since. So started kind of in design and the visual piece of it. And then as the internet kind of took over the world of design and marketing, grew my career from there. So.
Very nice. So I missed in the intro that, now you're CMO at eResources and founder of Via Studio. Is that right?
We are Tectonic now. We have rebranded eResources to Tectonic. So we'll talk about that later. But yes, so I bought into an agency called Via Studio in 2003 as a partner. About 5 years later, my partner retired and I bought him out. So I became 100% owner of the agency. And in 2023, I merged my agency with the company that is now known as Tectonic, which is a larger digital services and IT services firm. So I went essentially from CEO to CMO, and was able, in the last 3 years, have been really able to focus my role squarely in branding and marketing.
Yeah. So let's get into kind of maybe your philosophies and things that, in my research here, in terms of branding being more than just, pretty looking logos, right? Like there's more to it. It's more of a system in some ways. How does that change, the mindset and ways that organizations communicate and how we look at what branding really is?
Sure. One of the primary challenges for organizations, nonprofits, big companies, small companies, is they have a lot to say, but there's rarely a framework in which you can say it consistently. And some of that is the team size, some of that is the amount of budget or, the available time that you've got for that. But a lot of that is the foundational components of these systems. It's not post on social media 3 times a week, right? It's like, who's our audience? What do they value? What do we say to them that connects with them? How often do we say it? And how do we track how that affects our revenue or bottom line or whatever goals that these systems inhabit, right? So we get hired a lot from B2B companies that where recruiting is a big goal. So, you know, they might have, say, like a construction company responds to RFPs. So their brand's not very important from that regard because they're putting together 50, 60 page RFPs or proposals to RFPs. But they have, on the backside, they have to recruit people that want to be a part of something bigger than themselves, right? So the brand and from that piece is super important because they want high quality, high performers. So there are lots of different types of goals that brand and marketing can help with besides just revenue and sales.
Yeah, when you say that too, you know, the idea of the vision or the mission of the company, you know, really needs to be embodied in all of that because that is that pull for the on the recruitment side of things too, right? Just that people want to be a part of a movement, you know, as
Yeah.
opposed to just a business whose sole goal is to make money, right? So capturing all of that, it's got to be a little tricky though. Do you have a story or something, Jason, where you know you were able to work with a client and really change how they were perceived or how they, you know that kind of a shift that was kind of more monumental, if you will, you know, like one come to mind?
Um, yeah. I mean, lots of them do. We have a brand strategy framework that, um, you know, I'm not, I don't consider myself a chest thumper, but this framework works every time.
Yeah.
As long as the parameters are defined early in the process. What are your measures of success? You know, how do you view success here? And we're going to use that to make this process work for you. I can tell you there's one that I really love. We had a K through 12 private
Hmm.
educational institution, and they were having problems with attrition from about eighth grade into high school year, right? And one of the things anybody that has kids will tell you that around that age, kids also develop their own agency, right? They develop their own opinions about things, and it's, you know, you want to give them that. And so, you know, kind of dissecting why this was happening, one of the things that we realized going through this brand strategy framework was that they weren't sending any messages to these kids. They weren't marketing. And, you know, marketing can be a dirty word to somebody. So if you say, you know, like a lot of nonprofits don't like this because they feel like it's a maybe a sinkhole for budget. But when you realize that it's not a dirty word, it's just representing yourself accurately to the audience that needs to hear it, it becomes less of a dirty word. So part of our brand concept for them, we developed with those kids in mind, the type of artwork, the visuals, the messaging. You know, there were different messages for um, different target audiences there, and one of those
Hmm.
audiences was the students themselves. And so they implemented this, and you know, those this wasn't the only way to keep those attrition rates from happening, but it did move the needle on those attrition rates, and it was a huge win for them.
I love how really their end user was becoming more of an influencer as opposed to, you know, the parent being the decision maker is still kind of the decision maker, but seeing how that evolved, that's an interesting case. Now, one of the things you're kind of talking about is getting really clear on, well, objectives, measurements of success, that sort of thing. You know, I think we talked a bit about clarity driving engagement, you know, around clarity. You want to speak to that, Jason? What is your, you know, philosophy on getting really clear on things, and maybe there's something you can share with our listeners to help them gain clarity for their own brand or personal
Right.
branding.
Um, I, I might sound repetitive here, but it is sending the right message to the right audience at the right time.
Hmm.
Testing that and verifying that. Um, One of the things that it's hard for a lot of marketers to realize is that and I tell my team this, you're going to get sick of this work a lot sooner than your audience is, right? You develop the creative material, you develop the positioning, but your audience has to see that message and have it reinforced time after time after time before they start to believe it, right?
Mhm.
So one of the things, I've had a long-standing relationship with our public radio station in town, um, and a good friend of mine just retired. He was my contact there at Louisville Public Media for 15 years. He told me when we first met, um, you need to be able to let these messages run for about 2 years. You need to be able to invest that much time before your audience is like that connects and they connect you to that message. And if you don't have the patience for that, don't do this. Don't spend money on us. And it was the bet. Like I steal that all the time now because like not all campaigns take 2 years to be effective, but you do need to give it time to simmer in your audience's mind. You do need to give it time for it to again connect in the way that you want it to connect. Um, so yeah, and for creative people, that's just that can be demoralizing. Just
Yeah.
spinning off similar messages for months and months.
It,
But again, that's the job.
yeah. It feels so unoriginal or like so repetitive that people who are creative, like you said, strive to just create brand new things all the time. It just
Right.
feels boring, right? And something you're saying reminds me of, and I don't even know the number, but it's something like it takes 7 times for people to realize they've
Yeah.
seen it once, right? Like, and
Right.
so, and that's just seeing it once. That's not even, like you said, believing it, understanding it, attaching that feeling or that message to this company or
Right.
what have you, right? So there's a
Yeah.
lot of heavy lifting there when you think about it.
Right.
Um,
And so after like 15 years now, I'll get stopped at a professional event or something by people that like, I really appreciate that you support public radio. And it's like I didn't hear that for the first maybe 4 years that we ran ads there.
wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, and I experienced that with my own company where the outlay of money on ads, let's say specifically, there's a certain pain threshold where you're not seeing results and you start going, no, I can't keep doing this. Right.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
the faith in the system, like if you have, and again, if there's a past track record with that, let's say agency or what have you, there is a little bit different, like, oh, they were right in the past. But when you're trying someone new, there is a leap of faith there. And
Yeah.
over a long period of time, like, Jason, how do you handle the people who can't, or like, I mean, you pre-frame it, I think is what you're saying, is like you warn them, but the
Right.
ones that are getting antsy and going, I don't know if you know what you're doing, if this is going to work. How do you handle that?
Um, you rely on past performance, right? Like we've got plenty of case studies. I can show you where, you know, this work equaled this. You also have to be very honest and clear. Everyone at the table during these brand strategy meetings and this work, you have to be very honest. Everybody in the room has to have transparency and candor because the messages that you're developing in a brand strategy process have to connect and they have to be real. Because if they're not, your audience, your employees, everyone's going to catch that as quick as they can. They'll be like, they're not going to believe it, that therefore they're not going to own it. So that's the starting point.
Yeah. Hmm. Now
Can
there's
I
something
let me
yeah, no, please
let
go.
me there is a place to be creative and to have like a brand strategy framework should last 5 to 10 years at least. Um, and that's your identity, that's your core messaging and positioning, um, and that's your strategy, which is knowing your target audience and those types of things, your competition. You ladder up, so that's kind of the foundation of the pyramid. And I have a pyramid graphic I can share with you that elaborates this a little bit. You get up a little bit into the like 3 to 12 months cadence, And that's where campaigns come in.
Mm.
That's where you can shake up your campaign a little bit, change up the creative, you know, workshop the message a little bit so it stays on point, it stays relevant to the time or the trends. So, but that doesn't affect the bottom of like the core of that foundation, which is your positioning and your strategy. So there is a place to mix it up and keep it fresh and to keep everybody engaged and excited.
Now, when you see, I don't know, companies out there in terms of how they show up, or maybe it's a rebrand, maybe it's something like that. What are the biggest mistakes that you see, out there, or frustrations you might have? You're like, oh, I can't believe they're doing this kind of thing, that maybe drive you nuts. Is there some pitfalls you can point out that our listeners can make sure to avoid?
Um, I mean, it for me, it just looks like laziness now when there's not a concept or a strategy behind it. Like what are you laddering up to in your visuals? How do you want people, like if I can't tell how I'm supposed to feel when I'm interacting with your campaign or your ad or anything, that's a tell that they're just trying to kick shit out
Yeah.
and like with no real strategy or enthusiasm. And that's frustrating for me because I've seen so many people get excited even at the most boring organizations when you land on a concept that clicks and it makes sense and like it's a well that you can draw to from like for years. So just that kind of, you're working on the like the the top layer
Yeah.
without any real substance under that. And that's just, it's really sad, especially when you see organizations that could do better. You can afford to do the work.
Right. And well, my wife, she actually took, graphic design back in, university way back when, and all of this. And that's just kind of, it's part of the frustrations are seeing people talking about, or she would talk about people who fall in love with bad ideas, as a client, right? Like being a frustration, you're like, oh yeah.
That's there's an
Like,
that's an
do you,
internal
oh,
frustration when you get a client that's
yeah,
just they're so attached to their own ideas. They're not,
right.
they want to be the right person. They want to be, their ego is very attached to like, it's got to be my idea. It has to be my creative. And, I've put out work that I hate, but the
Yeah.
clients and their audience love it because it resonates, right? Like you're one person, your ego can't drive that work.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's got to be frustrating, but it's also sometimes there's that level of you as an expert, right? Have this, well, have all this wealth of knowledge and reasons why things should work or shouldn't work, depending on, what. And in many ways, the clients may be not educated enough to make a educated decision for themselves. I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of how it goes, I guess. But that's kind of the industry, I suppose, just kind of comes with the territory.
Yeah. Logo designs can get there, right? Like
Yeah.
when someone wants to hire you to design a logo and not a brand identity system, they get very caught up in that logo being the thing that is just the most epic thing you've ever done, and it's going to change the world and change my
Right.
business. And most logos, if you see them just, shelf test, black and white, there's no logo that you can really, it's rare that a logo itself does all that work, right? It's the thing that the logo that is surrounding the logo. It's the colors, it's the vibe, it's the
Hmm.
backing
Hmm.
copy, it's the video. So that's like we'll take on a logo project, because our team loves like smaller, more nimble kind of projects, but you have to frame that first, right? Like the logo is not going to change the world. I can show what the Oculus logo is, just like a long O, if it still is, right? Like if you saw that on a piece of paper and like there's your logo, it would be like, what? Excuse me? I paid you $50,000 for what?
Yeah.
But you put it within the whole system and it's like, oh my God, this makes so much
Yeah.
sense. This is gorgeous. So
Yeah. I love your term, what, brand identity system.
Mhm.
Like that to me, in terms of just branding is cool, right? Like just because you kind of realize there's more of an ecosystem happening. There's a how everything goes together as opposed to logo, right? Like just
Yeah.
that's really smart. I love it.
Colors are the same way, right? Like
Yeah,
when we're doing these systems, we'll have a concept that we're trying to back up. And so, we did a project for a boutique hotel once, and we were pitching the system. And so you don't want someone to dwell on a specific color. Like I don't like green. Um, so what we've started to do for, gosh, it's been over 10 years now, is when we're pitching options, name it, right? Like this is the forest color palette, right? You see deep browns and hues of deeper colors that ladder up to greens and
yeah,
blues. And this is why this system might make sense to the brand. So if
yeah,
you believe that and that is true to your organization, then let's go there. And
yeah,
so, and then maybe the other color palette might be something else, but like, what does this represent? What does it mean? I don't
yeah.
care if you don't like green. I care if this is true to the audience that wants to give you money.
True. And separating that ego out. And
Yeah.
I think what you just said there too, Jason, by naming it, you almost start the storytelling before. Like I think about Mad Men, right? And him,
Hmm.
doing these like real theatrical kind of pitches that, you would end up doing at some point. But the idea of even in building that package of like just the brand colors, naming it, I think that's really smart and astute. I want to change gears for a second, Jason. I understand
Sure.
you produce music and you host
Yes, sir.
events.
Hmm.
So tell us a little bit about what that is, and then maybe how has that influenced your work on the branding side of things?
Sure. I played music since I was 14, started playing drums, singing in punk rock and bands in the, early 90s. Um, that turned into electronic music and, the old, at some point I traded in my drum set for a drum machine, um, because it had a volume knob and I was living in an apartment and not in my parents' garage. um, but yeah, that's been a creative outlet for me since I was a teenager. So over COVID, um, there was a group of friends that I had, we've been friends and DJs and electronic music people for decades. And over COVID, we were getting bored. And I had a building for our agency. And so we started doing live stream events over COVID. Every other Saturday, we would have a friend of ours come in, and there would be maybe 10 of us in the building, and we set it up to look like a club. And so after COVID, after the lockdown started we came out of that era, we're like, well, let's go, let's throw some events. So we booted up what we call Transmit Productions, and we've been doing events since oh gosh, again since the we started coming out of COVID. Last year was awesome. We had Mixmaster Mike from the Beastie Boys come in. So like if you're into electronic music, you would recognize some of these names. Louis Vega, who's a huge in the house music scene. Alltecker, who's huge in the kind of experimental Aphex Twin kind of vein of electronic music. So yeah, it's not a moneymaker, but it gives us joy and brings a lot of joy to people in our part of the world.
Well, it's cool, and it's nice to be able to connect with your passion and
Yeah.
when you can. So is there any sort of parallel or anything? I mean, you've been doing music for so long. Has that influenced you? Do you think in your work?
The business component has absolutely. I think, I cut my teeth as a rave promoter in the mid 90s to the early 2000s, and I didn't realize I was getting a crash course in small business, right? The biggest event that I did back then, we had 7,000 people at a weekend long camp out rave party at a yoga retreat center in Southern Illinois in 1999. And, I was 28 maybe. And it was phenomenal. Like people still
Yeah.
talk about that show that we did, and Richie Houghton, Plastic Man playing for 5 hours on closing night, and people just losing their minds. So it there hasn't been a complete one-to-one, but I feel like it has taught me money management and small business life that way.
Yeah. Man, when you said 7,000 people at a yoga retreat, I started thinking about Firefest or that, like, I'm like, Jason, tell me this is going to be a good ending. Like, I don't, that was,
Nope,
yeah. Yeah.
nope.
You had a good, successful
We've
event.
we've done some good stuff, yeah. And the benefit of that, just to my personal life, is we've got friends all around the world that we have danced
Yeah.
with and hung out with. I've been to Thailand and met up with friends. We went to a festival in Croatia last summer and hung out with like our friends in Europe that, like drum and bass music. It's one of those pieces that I feel grateful that we haven't lost, my wife and I haven't lost our identity in kind of becoming parents and small business people and that kind of
Right.
stuff. It's really nice to have, honestly, to be able to mentor younger people to like, you don't have to, like, it's better if you don't shed your identity, right? It's better
Mm,
if you don't show up to these professional events pretending you're somebody you're not, right? Like, I mean, you can
yeah.
tell by the way I look, like I'm not going to sacrifice my personal values to make somebody else feel better. Absolutely not.
Right. That authenticity coming through, people buy into who you are, right? I think there's a line, oh man, I'm trying to remember the book, but it's that people at first, they don't buy what you do, they first buy who you are,
Yeah,
like the
right.
first sale, really.
Well, and
So
the
yeah.
the danger in not being yourself is the dishonesty that comes with that, because you might get 2 or 3 years into a a job or a client relationship, and you've kind of put yourself in a corner where you're
Yeah.
terrified to like talk about your
Share the
private
real
life. Or
you,
like, yeah,
right?
exactly. And
Yeah.
that, like,
Yeah.
those there's a danger of you becoming a dishonest person in general by not being yourself and being true to your own values and things
Yeah.
that you love.
And you're really just cheating yourself, right? You're
Yeah,
just,
right. I mean,
yeah.
there's so much joy in talking to our big clients and telling them that, like, hey, I like, we went and raved for 5 nights in Croatia last summer. It was freaking awesome, and they're like, oh wow, like I always wanted to
Yeah.
go to
Yeah.
Croatia, right? Like there's
Yeah.
an empathy building piece there that, like, it's not
Yeah.
the goal, but it is the outcome.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't pretend to be really into music and culture so I can have more friends. I do it because I love it. And
Yeah.
my old business partner is like, when I first started as a partner in the business, and I've got tattoos, and I was nervous at that point in my career. I'm like, hey man, like, should I cover my tattoos in these meetings? I want to make sure that I'm, supporting the business. And he told me, he said, Jason, if these people don't want to do business with you because you have tattoos, I don't want to do business with
Yeah.
them. And that
Yeah.
was like, just blew my mind. It's like, oh wait, you can
Yeah.
say that?
Yeah. Well, it's,
uh,
I mean, you're stating who you are as a company and who you want as ideal clients, by
yeah.
doing so. And
Well,
I think there's also something that you had said that, well, resonates with me, is that, you inspire others to live authentically too, right? Like, you're
yeah.
talking about the mentoring, but also the clients. You're talking about going to raves. It's like, man, this guy is like living the dream. He's doing what he loves, and
And it's
that's,
not, you're
yeah,
right. There's nothing that you can't do that I do, right? I will also say it goes back into, there's a branding component to it as well, um, and marketing. And this is one of the things that I try to help my clients and my team understand, is I want people to be able to say no to us as easily as they say yes to us, right? If you try to be all things to all people, you become
yeah,
nothing to no one, right? So if we show our website or our offerings or our perspective to somebody and they're like, I don't really, that doesn't really click with me. I'm like, okay, good. Don't make me waste 2 more months trying to sell you something you're not going to buy. On the flip side, like, wow, you guys seem honest and real and transparent about what you do. This looks like it might be a good fit. It's like, okay, good. I helped you say yes more quickly. So same thing in personal life. I don't want to hang out with people that are dishonest with themselves about who they are.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's an interesting, work and place scenario there where we're just trying to attract the right fit people around us because we're
Yeah,
going to
and
do
it's
our
okay.
best work or our best
Yeah,
play, with those people. Right.
yeah.
So
And there are people, and I get it. There are salespeople that want everybody to say yes to them all the time, and they go on these roller coaster rides of, win, celebrate, lost the next day, depressed, win, celebrate. Like, um, I'm not built for that. If we lose a client or a prospect because, that's the role of business and it happens, like I'm not going to waste my emotional energy on feeling bad about that. It's like,
yeah.
okay, there's 10 other lined up that might probably need something from us. Let's just keep going. Like I'm
And
not riding the roller coaster.
yeah, and there's one thing also to sell and be only the salesperson and not have to deal with them in operationally, right? Like
Yeah.
you sell a bad fit client, well, now the back end people they're dealing with a nightmare possibly, right? So yeah, it's kind of like you want to bring in the right fit people. Before we go, Jason, I like to always ask about the future. What do you see coming down the pipe? I mean, obviously AI is a big thing. There's a lot of AI design.
Yeah.
Probably sick of talking about it, but what if you put on your little or you get out your crystal ball? What do you see? What's your take on what's happening or what's about to
Um,
happen?
the older I get, the more of a foundations and first principles person I become.
Mm,
I really, but like I honestly, I could care less about the trends and the tactics. We know they will change, right? I've lived through the dot-com bust. I've lived through the real estate bust. We've won multi-million dollar clients and lost multi-million dollar clients. I've seen all the trends, right? There was a time in web development where everybody wanted to design the next social media app local, right? Like we know now that the corporations just come and gobble that up and there's no room for competition. The same thing's going to happen with AI. Like there's going to be a couple winners. There's going to be the Microsoft and Apple and Google of AI, and we'll use those tools. For me, it's the human piece. It's the foundational piece. Like, can you lean on principles that help you stay successful that change tectonically, right? Like they change more slowly. They evolve much more slowly. But if you can stand on those principles, your career is going to be fine. Again, the tactics might change, the subject matter expertise will change. Um, so, do you want to really dig in and get good at something specific, or do you want to be more of a strategist or a foundational leader? Like leadership is not going to change, I don't think.
yeah. A quote comes up for me that I learned years ago, and it was techniques are many, principles are few.
I love it.
Techniques will
Yeah,
vary, principles never do. And
yeah,
it's just like, it's exactly kind of summarizing what you just said there. So
yeah.
I'm with you. I'm with you, Jason. Yeah, I
One
totally agree.
one point to add there. So there was one point at which our branding work was growing faster than our web development work. And some people in our agency would like ask, like, well, who are we? What do we stand for? Like, what are we going to be, a branding agency or a web development agency? And like we go where the market takes us. Like if we take a stand, right, and say we're going to be an SEO agency and SEO work dries up because everybody's focused on artificial intelligence now, right? Like we can't, there's agencies can't stake their claim in one specific niche and hope to
Mhm.
live for 20, 30, 40 years. And,
Yeah.
that's been the goal. Stick around.
Stick around. Yeah. And I want to thank our listeners for sticking around. What a segue that is. Jason, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people reach out to you, or what? Do you?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm easy to find on LinkedIn. C. Jason Clark is in the URL string there. That's probably the easiest place. You can go to our website at teamtectonic.com. And if you're interested in working with us, you can find us there, sign up for the newsletter. But really, that like a social connect is just as important. I like to think that that's where it all starts.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for sharing your time, your expertise, your philosophies with us here on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Love your podcast. Do it again
Awesome.
sometime.
Yeah, for sure. And to all of our listeners, thank you for tuning in once again. And until next time, you know what to do. Stay engaged. Thank you so much for listening to Engaging Personalities. If you believe this world needs more engagement and you're an industry leader or you have an interesting take on rehumanizing business, go to go.engagify.ai/podcast-guest to apply and come on the show. If you got something out of this interview, do you mind sharing it on your social media? Just grab a quick screenshot with your phone and text it to a friend or post it on the socials. If you know someone that would be a great guest, tag them on social media to let them know about the show. Include the hashtag Engaging Personalities. I love seeing your posts and guest suggestions. We are regularly putting out new episodes and content. To make sure you don't miss any episode, go ahead and subscribe. Your thumbs up, ratings, and reviews go a long way to help promote the show and mean a lot to me and my team. Want to know more? Go to our website, engagify.ai, or follow me on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening, and stay engaged.